Hi, I'm Karan Thapar. Over the last few years, I hope you've been watching my program, The Interview on the Wire. During that period, I've interviewed doctors, politicians, businessmen, scientists, authors, and even the occasional Nobel laureate. For me, it's been exciting. I hope it's been enjoyable for you. But these, as you know, are tough times, and if this program is going to remain bold, independent, and sometimes even defiant, then I think we need your support. At the end of the day, it's a truism, but editorial independence is best defended by the viewers. So if you would like this program to remain the way it is, forthright, outspoken, and interesting, then would you consider supporting us? All you have to do is to click on the description at the bottom. But more than anything else, I hope you will continue to watch the interview. Your viewership means an awful lot to me.
Hello and welcome to a special interview for The Wire. The opposition believes the Election Commission is compromised. You've heard its leaders say so many times. The opposition also believes the special intensive revision of the electoral rolls in Bihar is designed to disenfranchise voters, and you've heard that said repeatedly as well. But does the opposition have an adequate response to these key concerns? My guest today believes it does not. In a recent article for Frontline magazine, he argues that it's time for the opposition to boycott the elections. This, he believes, would make the Indian people take a stand on these issues in a way they so far have not. Joining me now to explain his view is the author of To Kill a Democracy, India's Passage to Despotism, Debasish Roy Chowdhury. Debasish Roy Chowdhury, in a recent article you've written for Frontline magazine, you say the opposition needs to address critical questions if it believes the Election Commission is compromised and if it believes exercises like the special intensive revision are simply designed to disenfranchise voters. Let's take up those questions one by one. First, you ask, is there any point in playing at all if the game is rigged? You say, by continuing to contest elections they claim are stolen, the opposition parties are actually legitimizing the theft. For those who are new to this argument, can you explain it further?
Sure. Thank you, Karen, first for having me here. It's lovely to see you after a long time, I think after a couple of years when you last interviewed me. Now, coming to your question, this particular article was triggered by the special intensive revision of voter rolls in Bihar, let's call it SIR or SIR, which can potentially disenfranchise millions of voters. And we already are seeing reports that 61 lakh or 6.1 million people may already have been excluded. And the process looks disturbingly like NRC in Assam, which disenfranchised 1.9 million people. What makes this more even worse than NRC in Assam is that NRC was conducted over years, and this is being conducted over weeks. But it's not just the Bihar SIR. The article also speaks to the opposition and civil society allegations of widespread voter fraud in last year's Maharashtra elections, where more new voters were mysteriously added in 5 months. I think 4.1 million voters than in the previous 5 years, which the opposition is openly blaming the election commission for match fixing and industrial scale rigging.
So all of that, of course, is part of the background. But
Yes.
this is the fundamental question which I'd like you to explain for those.
Yes, so I'm coming to
Come
that. Now, the thing is that stealing elections is a deadly serious allegation because elections are the heart and soul of democracy. And, it is how we assess popular will. It is how we determine how we will be governed. And if you're convinced that the process itself is rigged, that it's compromised, it's really the end of democratic politics as we know it. And and there's no point in continuing with the usual norms of electoral participation. You see, charges of election rigging per se are not new in India. In the time that I was growing up in Calcutta, the communists had refined election dirty tricks to the point that it came to be known as scientific rigging.
But you're now making an additional point, aren't you? You're saying that if you participate in elections that you believe are rigged and you believe that those results will be stolen, what you're doing is you are legitimizing the theft.
Yes.
But participation is tactically and strategically the wrong thing to do.
Yes, because what we are currently witnessing is unprecedented. The Election Commission itself has never been considered to be colluding with the government or to steal elections. These are very significant charges. And the point that I was making in that article was, does it make any sense to go into match after match knowing that the umpire is bought and the matches are fixed, or is it time to think of different tactics, or to think out of the box and raise your game?
That's a very good point. And that leads to the second question you ask. You say by participating in elections, the opposition is creating what you call moral confusion. You write, and I'm quoting you, what exactly is the message for voters here? The elections are rigged, but come vote for us anyway. Are you suggesting there that the opposition could end up losing conviction with voters? That this moral confusion may actually drive voters away?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, say you come to me asking for a vote, but I see that you're also saying in public that the elections are rigged and democracy is dead. So I'm confused now, because if the system is rigged, then why are you contesting, knowing that you will lose? That to me is a sign of lunacy, right? Because election campaigns are expensive, and you're spending all that money, you're making all that effort to, or do what, knowing that you will lose. So this self speech that you have got for me neither convinces me that the system is rigged, nor convinces me that you are worth my vote. It is doing nothing for you. Because if the system is rigged, as you claim it is, then you will lose anyway. Then why should I waste my vote on you? And if the system,
Absolutely. You're
and
pointing to a very fundamental contradiction in the way the opposition is handling this. On the one hand,
yes,
the opposition keeps claiming the election is rigged, the election is unfair, the system is unfair. On the other hand, the opposition is also saying to voters, come vote for us. And the voters will say, why should I vote for you if the election is rigged? What purpose does my
yeah.
vote serve?
Exactly. So the bottom line is, you cannot call elections rigged and still be contesting in it. It is just logically inconsistent, and it's a horrible political messaging. If you're convinced that the elections are rigged, stand by your conviction and stay away from election as a matter of principle. You cannot have it both ways.
I'll come to that in a moment's time. But you first go one step further. You say the way in which the opposition so far has been handling this problem is what you call muddled. You say long letters or endless meetings with the Election Commission serve no purpose. You write, and I'm quoting you, if the EC is indeed the BJP's puppet and is helping it steal elections, what purpose do these meetings serve? What you're saying there is that no matter how long you meet the EC for, no matter how lengthy and detailed the letters you write may be, the EC will not do the right thing, it will not play fair.
Yes. So one very intriguing aspect of the opposition's protestations over these allegations of stolen elections is that, on the one hand, the opposition openly says that it's time the election commission uh, or, that it is the election commission through which the BJP is stealing the election. But on the other, it keeps sending these long letters and delegations to the Election Commission's office to lodge complaints against, guess who? The Election Commission. So, I mean, if you are, and like this is very
So once
confusing.
again, what you're saying is very simple. What's the point of complaining to the Election Commission about the
If
Election Commission? It serves
Exactly,
a purpose.
exactly. So if you are the one who has burgled my home, why would you want to meet me again and again to hear from me how you burgled my home? I mean, you kind of know how you robbed me, right? So what are these letters and meetings with the Election Commission actually achieving, apart from creating public records of the opposition's protest? And the thing to ask is that, are these public records helping? Are these making any difference? And what is the end game here? That you keep stealing and I keep complaining? I mean, where does this end? अगर 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 चौकीदार ही चोर है तो बार बार चौकीदार से चोरी का दरखास्त करने का क्या फायदा है?
Quite
I
right.
don't
It serves
understand
no
this.
purpose, which is why you say this procedure of of complaining to the Election Commission repeatedly, writing long letters to them, having long meetings with them is muddled. In the light of this background, the solution you suggest is no doubt straightforward, but it is also pretty dramatic. You write, you go to the police when your house is burgled, not to the burglar. In a democracy, the people are the ultimate watchdog. Take it to the people. And your conclusion is, and I'm quoting you, boycotting elections is the only logical recourse. My concern is this: won't the opposition boycotting the elections be tantamount to the opposition accepting defeat? And secondly, won't it hand victory on a platter to Narendra Modi and the BJP?
Uh, no, I would ask you then, if that is your contention, that did Jayaprakash Narayan hand over victory on a platter to Indira Gandhi when he started the civil disobedience movement in 1974, incidentally in Bihar? No, he
But he
forced
didn't boycott elections either.
no, but he forced the government into a corner, and the government in turn was forced to declare the emergency, which eventually boomeranged on it and brought it down. So in any case, Karan, the right question to ask is not whether it will help Modi or opposition. I don't care if the opposition is winning or losing, or Modi is winning or losing. But the right question to ask is, what is the right thing to do here? If elections are being stolen, if popular mandate is really being stolen, and if people are disenfranchised, then what is the right thing? What to do here if the government is stealing the elections through captured institutions? I mean, if I were to make that claim, I would find it logically impossible to continue participating in the process. I'm actually sure
Forgive me
that
interrupting. I hear what you're saying, Debasish Roy Chowdhury, that the right thing to do when elections are being stolen is to boycott the elections, don't legitimize the stealing by participating in the elections. But it may be the right thing to do. It could also lead to the wrong outcome. Because if the outcome is a sweeping victory for Narendra Modi, then that's not the outcome you want.
yeah, but it's a hollow victory. I mean, no one will be convinced by the results of an election in which or the opposition abstains in a country like India, which has for the longest time been seen as this bright spot of democratic politics in a part of the world where democracy doesn't exist that much. Or that sweeping victory you're saying, it's like last year, I think Rwanda's Kagame won the election by 99%. Does it mean anything? Everybody knows what that means.
But
It
but
doesn't
you're
hold any
relying
value, it doesn't
upon
hold any
but you're
legitimacy.
but there you are relying upon two things: the force of moral opinion within India and the force of international opinion outside India. Both would say an election which the opposition has boycotted is a meaningless election, and if Mr. Modi has won it, it's a meaningless victory. But what happens if that moral voice isn't heard? What happens if that international pressure isn't felt?
It is not about the moral voice, it's about the lack of legitimacy that a government without the opposition will have in India. It is a recipe for public unrest, it's a recipe for social conflict. You just cannot have that situation in India.
But let me put it like this. we've got elections coming up in Bihar in a couple of months' time. Tejasvi Yadav, in a comment that he made to the press a day or two ago, has suggested that one option his party could consider, they're not committed to it, but they could consider, is the possibility of boycotting the elections. And to the Times of India, the Congress has suggested it might consider that as well, but it's considered it less firmly. Suppose RJD in Congress were to boycott. There are still smaller parties that would participate, and those would provide the cover and legitimacy that the BJP and the JDU want. So the elections will go ahead without the principal opposition parties, and the JDU and the BJP would win, and there would be no moral dilemma about that victory because smaller parties would have participated and made it legitimate.
No, Karan, you see, the problem is that our idea of democracy has become so election centric that we, the people, and the political parties themselves have come to believe that is the only reason why they exist. But the problem with elections is that everyone has elections these days. Russia has elections, El Salvador has elections, Belarus has elections. I mentioned Saudi Arabia, which has elections infrequently. But the thing is that that autocrats, everybody knows, that love elections because elections lend legitimacy to their regimes. Elections give people a sense of empowerment, and elections can serve as an early warning system for detecting dissent. Even British India had elections. So there are elections, and then there are elections, and people home and abroad, or they can tell the difference. So if India tomorrow holds a sham election with the opposition staying away from it, it will be almost as good as holding no elections. It would carry no.
Two quick questions. First of all,
I'm coming to that. I'm coming. Let me finish.
The smaller opposition parties don't stay away. Suppose it's only RJD in Congress that do.
Yeah, but then they will be seen as client parties of the BJP, which they are anyway. So like it would carry no
difference. But then it makes no
difference.
Oh,
it does. It does. It does, because it carries no legitimacy. It draws global shock and risk, as I said, public unrest, with hundreds of thousands of opposition party workers angry and bitter at being denied their shot at power and competition. If you have an election in Bihar with just the BJP and the Jan Suraj and the LJP, which are the client parties which are trying to pretend that they're independent forces, it will be a surefire recipe, as I said, for prolonged social conflict and political crisis, not to mention the sheer loss of face for the Modi government at home and abroad for creating this impasse. More dangerously, Karan, for the government, an election boycott will galvanize the opposition grassroots cadres like nothing else. That would be a nightmare for the BJP.
I'll come to that in a moment's time. Let me cite you the example of Bangladesh. In that country, which is our neighbor, for 3 consecutive national elections, the opposition parties boycotted the elections because they believed that they were rigged, and Sheikh Hasina on each occasion swept to landslide majorities. It took 15 years before popular opinion reached a point that it rebelled and threw her out. It could take equally long in India. In other words, it might not be just the question of one boycotted election resulting in popular displeasure, resulting in the Modi government losing power. It could take 15, 20 years for that to happen. Are you really prepared for such a long spell?
Before I come to the validity of a comparison with Bangladesh, there is a small technical thing. The Bangladesh opposition did not have to actually decide or that it would boycott the election. The government, or the Hasina government, left it with no option because it had put away all the top opposition leaders away in jail, like Begum Zia has been in jail forever. So boycott was a no-brainer. So that comparison does not hold that much. And in any case, Bangladesh is not a good example here because Bangladesh has never been a stable democracy. It had a history of military dictators before Hasina's rule. So even if Hasina's rule was just notionally democratic, it was still an improvement over military dictatorship, and it was still a civilian rule. And that was good enough for some people in Bangladesh. That was good enough for the world's perspective of Bangladesh. But India's case is very, very different. It's a rare post-colonial state that did not become a basket case. It did not become a Zimbabwe or a Pakistan. India is in fact an exemplar of the possibility of democracy in unlikely places. That or the very survival of a democratic form of government in India with all its imperfections, it destroyed a lot of conventional wisdom about democracy. At the time of independence, it was widely believed that for democracy to work, you require a certain level of racial and cultural homogeneity, a certain level of literacy, a certain level of material wealth. And we proved it all wrong. Democracy took root in this country, and we achieved. Let me finish. And we achieved political unity as a nation in a very hyper diverse and poor nation. A strong civil society emerged, an activist judiciary made its mark, a
You're
vibrant
saying
media
for
took
all
hold.
these, you're saying
So
for all these reasons, a boycotted election would bring no credibility to India's democracy. It would bring no credibility to Mr. Modi if he wins it, and it would arouse popular sentiment in the country to the point where the nation would say, hang on, we need to improve our elections. We can't have these rigged elections carrying on. You're already convinced that boycotting would make that big
abs-
difference.
Absolutely, because India holds a very special place in global imagination, and even for Indians, it will be a shock if tomorrow the opposition stays away from elections. Because in these 75 plus years, our democratic instincts have deepened. We take immense pride in our democracy, and I would say sometimes wrongly, but we do. Any election that looks like sham will be unacceptable and will have no legitimacy globally, and an opposition boycott would immediately bring us down to the level of the likes of Venezuela and Belarus. Overall, it would be a scandal that no government can afford. I have no confusion about this. If a boycott happens, there won't be a time lag of 15 years. You will see the repercussions sooner than you think,
In fact, you
immediately.
make that argument particularly forcefully in terms of the sort of battle the opposition has to wage. You say this is a political battle and it has to be fought politically on the streets, not in the EC's chambers, not in the courts. And you add, without being backed up by political action, allegations of institutional corruption ring hollow. So, what you are suggesting is a massive public popular boycotting of the elections led by the opposition parties, which will awaken the voters to the fact that the system is rigged, unfair, and undemocratic. And that will bring pressure to change to the EC and to the Modi government behind the EC. That's what you're saying.
Yes. Because, peaceful civil resistance for democratic restoration is an intrinsically Indian idea. So I'm uh, I mean, if you're comparing it with Bangladesh, the problem is that uh, I mean, how do you, if you're convinced, if the opposition is convinced, as they say they are, that the elections are rigged, then how do you put an end to this? Or do we? I understand the
And the answer
or
is
the risk or the
force
risk.
and power of the people behind you.
Yes, exactly. Because all your systems you're claiming have been captured, or that entire system has been captured. The governing institutions have been captured. Also, where do you go? Where do you take your case? You take your case to the people. What is the point of running to the Election Commission and the Supreme Court? You just take it to the people because you cannot trust any other institution anymore.
And the way to take it to the people is by boycotting the elections and making the people aware that you're doing this for a particular reason.
Yes, because if just go to the people and tell them and convince them that we think this is what is going on and this is why we are not participating.
Okay.
So
My last question. As you know, Tejasvi Yadav has said that boycotting the Bihar elections is something he's considering. He's not committed to it, but it's one of the options available. In one or two sentences, what advice would you give him to convince him that he should boycott?
I don't think he needs any more reason. I mean, I don't think he needs me to tell him why he should boycott, or they should already know what is going on. But the thing is that I would tell him that the longer he takes the time to decide on this, the less convincing their case becomes.
In other
Because
words, decide quickly and do it promptly.
decide quickly. I have no doubt in my mind that sooner or later the elections will have to be boycotted.
Okay,
And I'm aghast how long this has taken them.
Thank you very much indeed, Debasish Roy Chowdhury, for explaining in somewhat greater detail what you wrote about in Frontline magazine, that the time has come for the sake of India's democracy that the opposition must start boycotting elections which they know will be rigged and be held unfairly. Take the case to the people. Let the people be the judges of what happens. Thank you very much for the time you've given me. Take care. Stay safe.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Karan Thapar. Over the last few years, I hope you've been watching my program, The Interview on the Wire. During that period, I've interviewed doctors, politicians, businessmen, scientists, authors, and even the occasional Nobel laureate. For me, it's been exciting. I hope it's been enjoyable for you. But these, as you know, are tough times, and if this program is going to remain bold, independent, and sometimes even defiant, then I think we need your support. At the end of the day, it's a truism, but editorial independence is best defended by the viewers. So if you would like this program to remain the way it is, forthright, outspoken, and interesting, then would you consider supporting us? All you have to do is to click on the description at the bottom. But more than anything else, I hope you will continue to watch The Interview. Your viewership means an awful lot to me.